You know that moment when you're a little kid and your mum or dad comes into your room and tucks you into bed, kissing you and telling you good night? That warm, fuzzy feeling you would have after they left, almost as if they were still in your room, protecting you from whatever monsters were lurking around. That's exactly how I felt now, except for instead of my parents tucking me in and ensuring I was safe, I had Brent delicately holding my fragile hand, as if ensuring my safety from the monsters within me. But he didn't know he was somehow protecting me. In fact, at the moment, I didn't realize it either. I didn't notice how her voice was completely gone. I was just enjoying the time I was spending with Brent. We weren't saying a single word to each other, just holding hands and walking, yet it was the sweetest thing. I looked at his face, studying his facial features as if trying to read his emotions. His bright emerald eyes were so focused, almost harshly, but at the same time soothing and relaxed. His mouth was a straight line, giving me the same kind of serious, but in a sweet way kind of vibe. I smiled as I thought about what he could possibly be thinking. I didn't even know where we were going, but I didn't care. It was getting colder by the second, and I shivered. Brent noticed and wrapped an arm around me, pulling me close to his chest to warm me up. "Thanks," I quietly said, loud enough for him to hear. He looked down at me, considering he was slightly taller, and smiled. As we continued to walk, I noticed what I assumed to be a house in the distance. As we got closer to it, it turned out to be a wood cabin. Completely confused, I continued to follow Brent into the cabin, and I know in hindsight that probably wasn't the smartest idea to just follow a guy I barely know into a cabin in the middle of the woods, but cut me some slack, okay? We walked into the house, which was surprisingly bigger than I thought from the outside. "This is my family's cabin. We used to come here all the time when me and my brother were younger," Brent smiled. I moved out from under his arm to explore the cabin a bit. I walked over to a mantel over a fireplace where several pictures stood. The first one I picked up looked like Brent's family. As I inspected the picture, I instantly could pick out Brent. Next to him stood a boy who looked almost identical, but taller and paler. I assumed it to be his mysterious older brother that Brent was always talking about. I smiled, seeing how happy they all looked. As I inspected each photo, Brent seemed to notice my interest and told me his family had a whole bunch of photo books. I politely accepted the offer, and he walked back holding a big book and sat down on one of the old warmed couches. I took a seat next to him and we started flipping through it. The whole first part of the book was mostly pictures of his brother before he was born. Eventually we made our way into Brent's time. He was a cute baby. There were a lot of photos of Brent and his brother fighting and playing, and the occasional dress-up photo, which made me laugh and Brent turned bright red. I felt my eyelids starting to get heavy as we neared the end of the book. We were on one of the last pages where I saw a picture that made me gasp as I snatched the book from Brent's hands. "Who's that?" I said, pointing down to the picture. "Oh, I don't really remember her name. All I know is that she was a couple years older than me," he explained tiredly. "Why?" "Oh, no reason. She just looked familiar," I said, looking down at the picture of Brent and Sally. I woke up to find my face buried into Brent's chest. I looked up slightly to see that he was still sleeping. I smiled. He was really adorable. I got up slowly, making sure not to wake him, and made my way towards the window. It was pitch black outside. Grabbing one of Brent's jackets, I decided to go for a walk. And no, I wasn't going to ditch him. I was going to come back. I just needed some fresh air. Walking out of the cabin, I took a deep breath of crisp fall air. Fall always was my favourite season. No reason at all, it just was. I smiled as I wandered further into the woods, just enjoying myself. I was happy, and I wasn't quite sure why, but I was enjoying myself. "It's been a while, Sky." No. This was not happening. Not right now. "Have you missed me, darling?" "Please just leave me alone," I begged. "You love him, don't you?" "Love is an awfully strong word. I wouldn't go as far as to say I love him." "You're a terrible liar." "Don't you dare hurt him," I threatened. "Oh no, please don't threaten me," She laughed sarcastically. My head started to pound. Stop, I whispered with what energy I had left. I wasn't even strong enough to scream. This is for the best. I'm here to destroy everything you love, remember? She laughed once more. At this point, tears were streaming down my face. The pain was unbearable. It was like someone was stabbing you in the head over and over and over, but you just wouldn't die. My knees buckled into each other and I collapsed onto the ground. Sky! Footsteps ran towards me. I couldn't tell if this was my imagination or not, but I wasn't going to take any chances with hurting Brent. Because the truth is, I do love him, and I couldn't let her know that. Sky, please answer me. Please, I don't want to hurt you, I cried, clutching my head, knowing she could easily overpower me at any second and kill him. You can hurt me all you want, he said, grabbing my head so that I was looking him right in the eyes. I just need to make sure you're all right, because Sky, I love you. He pulled my head towards his and kissed me. It wasn't a typical middle school, high school kiss either. It was passionate. My tears were flowing even harder now, but slowly my headache went away along with the voice. He pulled away just to kiss my forehead again and wipe my tears away. Come on, he smiled sweetly, picking me up bridal style. He knew that I was messed up. He knew I had issues. He knew I wasn't the most sane person ever. He knew I wasn't a normal girl. But he didn't care. Calm down, I told myself as my smile slowly faded and I wiped tears from my eyes. My heart was pounding as I slowly began to remember what happened. Now just think. I clenched my eyes shut, trying to remember. I woke up after another nightmare and went to go find Brent. It was freezing in the room, so I grabbed the blanket. And as I walked out of the room, I realized it was freezing because the door was hanging wide open. Brent? I called, looking around and realizing he was nowhere to be found. Taking a deep breath, I decided to be adventurous and go outside. And, being the idiot I was, I didn't put shoes on. The damp, dewy ground squished between my toes as I walked further and further into the woods. He's probably dead, the voice said. Shut up, no he's not. You don't know that. Let's say he accidentally wandered across, well, let's say your house, and decided to be a little adventurous and checks it out. You never know, Sky, she chuckled. You don't know that, I said, a bit worried. Why was she talking to me like we were friends? I shook it off and continued walking, gradually picking up my speed. What if she was right? What if Brent was in trouble? Considering he was really the only person I cared about, I was worried for him. And I know how long I was in denial about liking him. But in my defense, I didn't know how people interacted with each other. And now I know that I love him. God, I sound so elementary. The wind howled hard against me, reminding me that I had a mission. I shook off my feelings of worry and replaced them with determination. Just then, I heard screams come from just a couple yards away from where I was. Knowing exactly whose screams they were, I ran towards them, tears building in my eyes. No! I screamed, standing up. I looked down to see the body laying motionless. No, this is just a nightmare, I chuckled, dropping the bloody knife. Yeah, just another nightmare. I took a step back, examining the two bodies. One breathing, but barely. The other one dead, to my doing. I pinched myself in an attempt to wake up. Please, I said, falling to my knees. Please, I shouted, shaking my head. There is no way this was actually happening to me. I laughed again, not accepting what I had done. I had just killed my mother. My long brown hair was splattered with her blood. I held her knife. I killed her with her knife. I looked over at Brent. He was alive, but probably not for long. I had to move quickly. My stomach churned as I thought more and more about what I had done. Walking over to Brent, I pulled out his cell phone from his jacket pocket and called the police. As soon as they answered the phone, I ran. I'm not as fast as my mum and dad, so I knew I had to get somewhere quick and hide. I remembered that a couple blocks away was an empty house that I could hide in for a couple days. I walked up the stairs. I walked down the hallway and to the last room. I pressed myself against the wall, slowly sliding down it, eventually burying my head in my knees, letting my tears roll down my face. I looked at my bloody hands in horror. What had I done?